Welcome to Fighting Stats, the ultimate channel for MMA fans who love statistics and betting breakdowns. I'm your host, Art C, and I'm here to get you ready for the upcoming UFC fights. In this series, I'll be watching tape and providing my real time analysis on how I think the fights are going to go. I'll be watching for fighters' strengths, weaknesses, tendencies, and overall strategies, pairing that with Fighting Stats' exclusive UFC stats not available anywhere else to give you a prediction on how I think the fights are going to go and ultimately who's going to win. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Welcome to Fighting Stats. Welcome back to Fighting Stats. I'm your host, Artsy, and today we are going to be breaking down the UFC 297 fight between Brad Katona and Garret Armfield. We watched all the Brad Katona side and we watched the Garret Armfield side. Now it's time to put down, breakdown, get a best bet out of this. So first things off the bat, Brad Katona, Superman. He was on The Ultimate Fighter twice, winning The Ultimate Fighter twice. And so one thing I did want to note here, Brad Katona, granted chin, one of the reasons. So right now his record 13-2 over his last 14 fights. Now I'm going to be counting the Ultimate Fighter fights because they're technically fights. They just don't count as official fights. So over his last 14 fights, 12 of them have gone to decision. He did win 2 of them by submission, actually submitting Bryce Mitchell in the 3rd round on the Ultimate Fighter, and then submitting Borislav Nikolic by guillotine in the 3rd round again. So the reason that he goes to decision is that he's very durable, pretty much a granite chin on him. I've seen him take some big shots and not go out there. On offense, Brad Katona is throwing a lot of single strikes, not putting together a lot of combos, likes the left hook a lot, jumping in, not really straight, not a huge kicker either. So from what I've seen, the reason that it goes to decision, and again, outside of his last fight with Cody Gibson, Brad Katona is usually the one pushing his fighters up against the cage, looking for a takedown, the opponent trying to get back up. He's really grinding and sort of a wet blanket on you. When he's on top, on the ground, he's sort of again, hard to get off, wet blanket trying to get off of him. When he does get the back, he does work in the rear naked choke. So part of the reason why he has so many decision or fights that go to decision, he was in the UFC. He won the Ultimate Fighter, then went 2-2 in the UFC, actually losing to Merab Devashvili and Hunter Azur, and then actually got cut from the UFC. Went over and fought in Brave. Put 4 fights together, winning all by decision. The 3 by decision, 1 by guillotine, and then he got invited back to the Ultimate Fighter. Well, I'm going to say invited back, but he does train at SBG Ireland with Conor McGregor. That was the Ultimate Fighter season where McGregor coached. I believe there was something going on where McGregor came in and brought his teammates in. I don't know if Brad Katona was part of that group, but again, Brad Katona wins the Ultimate Fighter. Again, granite chin on the ground. He's pretty good at get-ups, doing the right thing and defending, pretty busy off of his back. On the Garret Armfield side, honestly, I've been pretty impressed by Garret Armfield. If you go back and watch the fight tape, it was hard to find really any holes in Garret Armfield's tape. What I found was that he had elite takedown defense, really good hips, good strikes, very good on the feet, fast hands. On the ground, he looked like he knew what he was doing. Went 3 rounds there. If you go back and watch the Mateo Vogel fight, he lost that fight by rear naked choke in the 2nd round. But he actually dominated that fight. The first round could have been a 10-7. There was a point deduction for mouth guard. Could have been a 10-8, resulting in a 10-7. Mateo Vogel actually comes back and wins by rear naked choke. It was just a slip where Vogel gets the back of Armfield, drags him down to the ground and sinks in the choke. If you go back and watch it, actually the choke is super deep. Rear naked choke is in there. He fights through it. He breathes through it and gets out of it, but then gets put right back into it. So good submission defense, but he does end up getting submitted. Then he takes on Alex Macias, Mark Slater in Shamrock FC. Not super big wins, but again, he does win. He looks impressive in those wins. Takes on Stephen Graham, and then he takes on David Onama. He gets called into the UFC on short notice. I think it was like a couple of days' notice fighting David Onama up a weight class. He was actually pretty competitive in that fight. I think it was plus 600 underdog. He actually did look pretty close on the feet, was landing and beating David Onama. Just David Onama is so big for the division. He was able to control him in the grappling. David Onama lands or sinks in the arm triangle choke in round 2. But again, that fight was very competitive. And then Garret Armfield drops down back to 135, takes on Tashumi Kazama, actually winning that fight by a straight punch there, dominating that fight as well. So again, on paper, I didn't really see anything to really say, anything bad to say about Garret Armfield. Whereas Brad Katona, what I can say is, again, super durable. Always coming forward, pretty strong. So here's how I think the fight's gonna go. I think both fighters will open up orthodox. Brad Katona, not a huge leg kicker. Neither is Garret Armfield, so it's probably going to take place on the feet. Now, Brad Katona usually likes to look for these takedowns, looks for the clinch, drives his opponent to the cage, does a little bit of cage pushing, drops down for a single, works on the single. Those takedown attempts take a lot of time, but he does try to work on them. But when I look at the David Onama fight versus Armfield was able to control Onama in the clinch. Onama being a big 45er, moving up in weight class, again, short notice, he was able to hold his own in the clinch, move him around. So I don't think that Brad Katona can do that to Armfield, really control him on the fence. Again, we talked about Armfield's takedown defense. Brad Katona's takedowns aren't the greatest. Again, they're more of a pushing up against the fence. They're not like blast doubles or super single legs takedowns, things like that. He'll work on the fence. If he does get taken down, I think Armfield can sort of pop back up. So I do think it's going to be somewhat of a stalemate if Brad Katona does look for the takedown. Again, if he gets it or not, I don't know. But if he doesn't get it on the feet there, I kind of favor Armfield. Honestly, what I talked about in the breakdown is Brad Katona is throwing a lot of single shots, right? Not putting a lot of combos, but Armfield's pretty busy. Anytime anybody lands on him, he returns with 3 or 4 punches there. On the judges, judges sitting cage side, I think they will notice that. Again, Brad Katona doesn't have a ton of power, so it's not like he's landing and like really rocking Armfield, and Armfield staggers back, and then the judges really see it. I think if Armfield just out volumes Brad Katona, I think he can win a decision here. Again, Brad Katona has a crazy chin, so I'm not putting a lot of weight into an Armfield KO. I do think it's possible. I haven't seen Brad Katona get rocked. He ate clean knees. He takes some clean overhand rights. Doesn't even blink. It actually works to his benefit because the judges don't even see that it lands. If he just backs towards you, he just eats them, keeps coming forward. It's not like he's like wobbled and stanky leg sort of thing. He just eats them and continues to come forward. So that's part of the reason, again, he's winning these decisions. So I'm going to pull up our handy dandy bet tracker here. We're going to put Brad Katona on the left side and the blue side, Garret Armfield on the right side. So Brad Katona to win by TKO. I do think it's possible. I just don't. The last 14 fights, he doesn't have any TKO wins. I think he wobbled Cody Gibson in that last fight, but again, not a ton of power, not a ton of long extended combos. I'm going to leave it at 10%. I don't think it's much more than that, probably not much less than that. Brad Katona to win by submission. I do think it's possible. I think if Brad Katona gets on the back, rear naked choke is live. I think guillotine is also kind of live as well. I just don't think it's that high. It's probably not more than 10%. I want to leave it at 5% just because, he does have 2 wins. Okay, so we'll leave it at 10%. Brad Katona to win by decision, I think, is his most likely path, just obviously out of his record. You can tell that he's more a decision fighter here. So I'm going to leave it at 30% here, whether I need to add to it or not. I think 30% sounds about right. Garret Armfield to win by TKO. I do think that he's going to be the busier striker. Again, I don't think he has a ton of power either. He does have a couple of TKO wins. Just Brad Katona has a chin on him. So if I give Brad Katona a 10% chance, I'm going to give Garret Armfield 10% chance. I don't think it's either side is more likely to win by TKO than the other. Same thing with submission. I think Garret Armfield is pretty good on the ground as well. I don't think he's going to lose by submission or win by submission either. I'm going to leave it at 10% there. And then win by decision, what's left, 30%. So, yeah, I see it as a pretty close fight, 50-50. I mean, I think I could drop down submission on both sides to 5% here. Beef up the decision line to 35%. Let's talk it through. Okay, so my numbers so far: Brad Katona to win by TKO, 10%; Brad Katona to win by submission, 5%; and Brad Katona to win by decision, 35%. Whereas on the Garret Armfield side, TKO is 10%, sub is 5%, and win by decision is also 35%. I basically see this as a coin flip, 50-50. It could go either way. I can see, honestly, split decision either way. I do think that the fight goes to decision more often than not. I will be looking at a couple of lines that I have my head set at. I know Garret Armfield is somewhat of an underdog right now, so I wouldn't mind playing him as the underdog, just again, because I do think it's 50-50. I think Garret Armfield is not bad. Again, hasn't looked bad in many of those fights there, so... The other props you want to talk about, both fighters to win inside the distance, I have at 15%, so plus 567 or better. Not to go to decision, I have at 30% or plus 233. To go to decision, minus 233. I think that's about right, honestly. I think people will see the Brad Katona side, see that he goes to decision more often than not. I think that line gets probably set around minus 250 to 300, if I'm being honest. So I'll keep an eye out for that line to see if it's playable. I'll try to watch some of the openers, but I have a feeling it's going to be around that, and I'm probably not going to be able to touch it. And then on everything else, because it's 50-50, is upright. So I'm going to pull up the current odds just because I don't remember what they are here. Garret Armfield here, just looking at the best line. Brad Katona minus 180. Gonna see where he opened up. He opened up minus 155, dropped down to 180 briefly, popped back up to 170, down to 185 or minus 200 briefly, and then back up to minus 180. So there seems to be some buyback both ways. It seems to probably settle in that range. Garret Armfield coming back down. So same thing. There's buyback at 170. Initial thoughts at plus 145. So let's put that into the tracker here. Garret Armfield again plus 155. What does our Kelly Criterion calculator say? 2.2 units. So at 8th Kelly Criterion at current odds of 155, Kelly Criterion saying we have an edge of 2.2 units. I will consider that a bet there. I may end up playing the money line on Armfield, but I'm waiting for some props. I'm going to see if I can hit some of these props based on these numbers. Just curious to see where they open. But that's sort of how I see the fight. I do see that probably pretty... the last Brad Katona fight versus Cody Gibson was pretty entertaining, not going to lie. But all the fights before that for the Brad Katona fight, not the most exciting. Had to fast forward a lot of them. I actually skipped a couple of fights watching them, watched them on 2x speed. So... yeah, it's going to come down to the judges. Brad Katona is the hometown guy. He trains at SPG Ireland with Conor McGregor. I could see the crowd behind him, sort of influencing the judges. I can see him winning a split decision, honestly. So I'll keep an eye on those lines. I don't know if Garret Armfield can really look minus 300 on the feet sort of thing. I think he's a busier fighter. I think he could win a decision. I just think in a close fight with a hometown edge, you give Brad Katona that. But I do think based on the numbers, the current lines, it's probably dog or pass for me. I'm not playing Brad Katona. I'm going to look for a Garret Armfield line. Worth noting that in Garret Armfield's fight, the last fight, he traveled all the way to Singapore against in front of the hometown crowd there, beat the Asian fighter there by TKO. Though it's possible that he comes into Canada, beats Brad Katona again, but just the way that I see the fight going, I think it goes to decision more often than not. Then it's about the judges, the cheering, bigger moments, things like that. I can see it going either way. So not super confident on either side, but I do like the value on the Garret Armfield side. So again, my name is Artsy. Leave me a link below or a comment below how I did, if I'm missing anything, not considering anything, and then I'll consider it from there. But hope you enjoyed the show. My name is Artsy. This is FightingStats. All right, guys. Well, that is it for today. Thank you very much for watching. If you like this sort of content, make sure you smash the like button, hit the subscribe. You'll get notified anytime we put out new content. And remember, here at Fighting Stats, I lead a team of expert data scientists. We are working around the clock to produce these exclusive UFC stats, not available anywhere else. We do our tape study. We pair them with our stats. We put out our best bets. We put our best bets to patreon.com/fighting-stats. That's where we put all our analysis, all of our stats. Join patreon.com/fighting-stats to get exclusive access. Recently, we just hit $82,000. Yes, that's right. $82,000 parlay on one fight. We used our fighting stats to get there, and we won a massive payday. Our Patreon members had exclusive access to that, so they shared in the profits there. So don't miss out. Make sure you subscribe today. Again, my name is Art C. This is Fighting Stats. Thanks for watching.